You are listening to When Life Gives You Lemons, the podcast that interviews high-performing individuals who have been through adversity but come back stronger. I'm your host, Emma Levy, a physiotherapist who has helped elite athletes on their way to Olympic success. This podcast was born following my own trauma when I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of just 36. Sat in the chemo chair, I set myself the goal of starting a podcast to explore resilience and the power of mindset. Before we start, I'm going to ask you all a quick favour, please. If you are listening on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, please follow the show. By following, rating and even writing a review, you can really help us grow, and that is what we need. So I'd be so grateful if you could help us out. Now on with this week's show. Today I'm welcoming Lina Nielsen to the podcast. Lena is a Team GB 400 metre runner who has represented Great Britain on the international stage at multiple World Championships, European Championships, Commonwealth Games and her first Olympic Games in Paris, where she came home with an Olympic bronze medal in the 400 metre team relay. Lena is also a yoga instructor on the Fit app, a broadcaster, was host of Life Hacks on BBC Radio 1, and her story truly embodies strength, resilience and determination. Because beyond her incredible achievements on and off the track, at just 17, Lena was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a condition that could have ended her athletic career before it even began. But Lena chose a different path. Through grit, mindset and self-belief, Lena has managed to balance elite sports with a chronic condition to become not only a world-class athlete, but also an advocate for those with MS, redefining what's possible. I can't wait to ask Lena all about her career and how she manages life as a professional athlete while living with a chronic condition, what it really takes to perform under pressure, and how she's learned to turn her challenges into immense success. Lena, I hope that introduction was all right.
It's a great introduction.
I've wanted to chat to you for ages, to be honest. I've been hassling Christian, your agent, for a long time. And I was actually, like I said to you before, I was actually out in Paris. So I was watching you guys. I mean, what a stadium. It was incredible out there, wasn't it?
It feels like a fever dream. Like I don't even think it was my life. Like when I look back, I'm like, that was a movie that I watched. That wasn't my life. Like it was just, the best experience ever.
It was so special. Yeah. I mean, how did it feel to go to your first Olympic Games? At the time, it felt very normal, if that makes sense. You're in that kind of flow of like, I'm going to go, and you're in that tunnel vision, that focus. It's only when you leave the Olympics and you wait a few weeks and then you look back that you realise, oh, wait, that was actually massive that we did. You don't experience it at the time, but it's the memories that mean the most, I think. And my Olympic medal is on my sitting room coffee table in the back corner, and I like look at it every morning. I'm like, what is that doing here? Why is that in my house? And it's like, I think that it's one of those things I'm going to look back in 10, 20 years and think, yeah, I'm glad I did that. Yeah. And to get a team medal as well, because it was in the relay, you guys got a bronze, didn't you?
Yeah.
But it's quite an individual sport, I imagine. So to actually get a team medal, that must have felt quite special.
Yeah, it was so nice because we're friends with a lot of the relay girls. Obviously, my identical twin sister was also in that relay, so that was really special. And it's just, it's a lovely, I think, embodiment of womanhood, like us girls on the relay podium together. We were all celebrating each other because they announced each of our names individually. We were just like cheering so loud for each other. Like it's just, it made it even more special.
Yeah. And you mentioned your twin sister, Lavia.
Yes.
Lavia?
Depends where you're from in the UK. That's what she always says. If you say Bath like Bath, it's Lavia. If you say Bath, it's Lavia.
Okay. So I'll say Lavia. Yeah. Your twin sister, Lavia. So she also does 400 metres?
She does the 400 metres. I do the 400 metre hurdles.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there competition between you two?
There used to be. So when I used to run the 400 metres, it wasn't so much competition, it was comparison that I found really difficult. At the time, I hadn't said to anyone that I had MS. So I was living with MS from 17, whereas my sister only got diagnosed at 25. So she was living as an elite, normal, healthy athlete. So of course she was a lot faster, but then I was dealing with a chronic condition. So I was 2-3 seconds behind her. And yeah, it got too much for me to constantly be compared to my sister. So I decided to switch events. And it was my calling for a long time. I looked up to people like Sally Gunnell and Perry Shakes-Drayton and like the greatest in our sport in this country. And I wanted to be like them. And I think the 4 hurdles is quite intimidating for a lot of people, and I was always quite scared of it, but then once I tried it I was like, this is my calling, this is my event, and it was the event that got me to Olympic Games, so I'm glad that I did it.
And also I wonder if the fact that now you're not direct competition with your sister has actually helped drive you in that role as well.
Yeah, when we train together, we know we're not fighting for each other's spots in the team, so we push each other, we have different strengths on the track, so we always kind of chase or let ourselves be chased. So there is that friendly competition, but it helps us thrive.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine, even if you don't want there to be competition, if you're both going for like spots on that relay team, how can you not feel competitive against each other? It must be really kind of ingrained. It must be really hard because you both support each other as well.
Yeah, I think we want first and foremost is we want the best for each other. Because I remember when my sister made the 21 Olympics and I didn't, the first thing I said was, well, at least one of us is going.
But did you mean that?
Yeah, I was like, well, at least one of us is going, because it was like a big dream. And then, it was when we both made the relay team in Paris, it was like, okay, thank God we can just relax now. And it was nice for both of us to come home with a medal. She came back with 2. But at least we came back.
So she got in the mixed relay as well, didn't she?
Yeah, she was in the mixed relay.
Was that bronze as well?
Yeah.
So you're just going to have to go out and get another one at the next Olympics.
Working on upgrading that bronze.
It's been a mixed year for you, am I right? You broke a British record was that the indoor?
The indoor season, yeah.
So that's amazing. Yeah. So you're now the British world record holder.
The British record holder, yeah. The 300 metres. It's very niche, but I'll hold on to that.
Okay, and how fast do you run 300 metres in then?
Oh God, what was the time? 36.53.
Oh wow!
So I broke Dina Asher-Smith's record, who's a good friend of mine. I was like, sorry, but she was like, it's good that you did that. But I loved that. Yeah, it was right off the high of the Olympics, that indoor season. So I was still kind of riding that wave. It was just only after the indoor season did I feel that post-Olympic crash that people have been speaking about that I didn't want to believe. But that's when I started to experience.
So you did get a post-Olympic crash?
I did, yeah. And that was the kind of time where I think a lot of the people that I was, friends with or in contact with, they were starting to go like, it's just hit me, like I'm not training as well as I usually could. And that's when my training started to dip as well. So there's some science there. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I need to figure it out. But it was hard after that indoor season.
But is that because you didn't take a break after the Olympics, or enough of a break? Is there something physical about the fatigue side of things?
Yeah, I do think so. I think it's, giving your CNS a good rest. I think I took maybe 4 weeks off after the Olympics, which is...
So you did take a month off.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was enough time. I know people who took like 2-3 months off. So maybe in hindsight, me and my sister said we maybe should have taken a little bit more time off. But
I think it's an excuse to take off a year.
Yeah. That'll be me after the next Olympics.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take 10 years off.
And then you've just come back from the Worlds in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And we were just chatting before, that didn't quite go your way.
No, didn't make it past the first round, which I would say is one of the biggest failures of my career, is not making it. That was actually one of the most devastating moments, but not because... I think it was because I poured so much into it this year, and I couldn't figure out why it went wrong. So it was kind of like a bit of a confusing devastation. So it was very hard to come to terms with, because I couldn't figure out what had happened. It's something that I'm definitely going to learn from. It's only been about three weeks, I think, since it's happened. So it's definitely a failure, and definitely something that I'm going to work on and consider. I'm not an athlete who doesn't go past the first round of a championships. That's not what I trained to do. So it was something that really made me step back and look at my decisions and the way that I go into championships.
So how do you come back from that? Have you got like a plan? What are you going to do when you start training again in the next few weeks?
I'm going to train for my event. So I do run the 400 meter hurdles, and I think I've looked at the 400 hurdles because I've come from the 400. I've looked at it like an event where, so you just add 10 barriers to the 400. I know how to run the 400. And that's a naive way to look at that event. And I think I need to put more respect onto that event, and definitely work for the full hurdles. I said to my coach, I was like, if I never run a 400 again in my life, because I was very sure I was going to retire after Tokyo. I was like, I poured everything into this year, and I didn't make it past the first round. Maybe that's my capacity. Maybe that's my limit as an athlete. Maybe this is just what it is. And I remember texting all my friends, like, I'm done. I'm going to retire. Like, this is me. I'm finished. I'm 30 in 5 months. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then after a while, I was like, no, if I never run a 400 ever again in my life, I'll be okay with that. Like, that's cool. I'll park that. But if I never run a 4 hurdles again in my life, I'm not going to be okay with that. Like, I've not reached my potential. I know that I've got a lot more in me. And so it really made me look at the 4 hurdles like, this is my priority now. Because before, I think I just looked at it like, I'll do both and I'll, be faster and stronger. But actually, like, I really want to tackle that 4 hurdles and be one of the fastest in UK history. So
well, you already are. Indoor.
To climb the all-time list. I think I'm 7th now. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's okay. But I need top 5.
Oh, all right. Something to aim for.
Yeah.
And you are a London girl, is that right?
Yes.
So is there any story about kind of like London 2012 Olympics? Were you involved there at all?
I was involved, I was 16 when the 2012 Olympics came round. So because I grew up in one of the London boroughs that was hosting the Olympics. I grew up in Waltham Forest, one of the 5 Olympic boroughs, I think it was. And there was an opportunity for 16 to 18-year-olds, a very small group of people who lived in the local area. So I was in the right place, right time. And one of the opportunities was to be kit carriers. So, which don't exist anymore. Because I remember when I was a kit carrier, it was just like the most special experience. And it's so great for a young person to do. Like I didn't know that the Olympics were so grand. I know that everyone hears about the Olympics. And when you go to schools and stuff and you talk to kids who are 4, 5, 6, 7, they always ask, have you been to the Olympics? So everyone knows it's huge. But not until you're stood in that stadium do you realise how grand it is. And I remember when we finally got into the stadium for our first shift, as you will, and we stood there with the boxes, we were told to look forwards, don't make eye contact with the athletes, just put the box down, wait for them to, get ready. And once we put the box down, all of us couldn't help but like look around. We were like, oh my goodness, this stadium, 80,000 people, this is insane. And I just remember thinking, when I make the Olympics one day, I'm going to thank my kit carrier. When I got to Olympics, there were no kit carriers.
So what, you had to carry your own kit?
We had to go out race ready. I remember in 2012, it might have just been because it's a bit colder in London. They came out in their tracksuits, but we went out in Paris in our race kit ready to go. So times have changed, but that was an incredible experience. And I remember like when we finished, I think we did 4 days of kit carrying. And when we finished the 4 days, we weren't okay with that being our last Olympic experience. My sister and I were like, we have to try and make it one day. This is our dream now. And that's where the dream really began. And it wasn't, if it wasn't for 2012, I wouldn't be an Olympian myself. Really? So I'm that's so amazing. Glad.
And do you remember any of the athletes actually talking to you?
No, they didn't. But of course, like when I think about me at the Olympics, like I didn't talk to anyone, no one. I didn't want to say a word. So I get it now. Get why they didn't want to speak to us and why we were told not to.
It's funny, but there is a video. I've seen a video of Usain Bolt talking to one of his kit carriers in London. Have you seen that? Like they do like some handshake or something.
Yeah. But Usain Bolt's always been so chill when it comes to it. He just knows he's going to win.
So he just came out, he was like, whatever. I don't need to be focused. Fair enough. So that massively inspired you. And, we've been chatting for however many minutes already. And we've been talking about all of your incredible career. But what isn't obvious to people that don't know you is that you live with a really serious chronic condition, which is multiple sclerosis, like I said in the introduction. And you said you were diagnosed as a kid.
Yeah.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
So it was about a year after the Olympic kit carrying experience. Wow. Yeah, so I was 17.
Okay, so you'd already started your athletics career.
Yeah.
And were you good at that point?
We were somewhat good. My sister was better. I had actually experienced my first symptom at 13, so my body was already changed a little bit.
What was that? What was your first symptom?
I had left-sided weakness, so only on my left arm. So that was, when I was 13, very young. I didn't think anything of it. When you're 13, things happen, you just don't care. But I remember we went to A&E, my mum took me to the emergency room because she was like, this isn't normal. And I remember saying to one of the nurses, like, I can lift my left arm, but I can't lift it past like 90 degrees, or like I can make a fist, but I can't. Yeah, so it was like a very kind of niche thing to happen, and I couldn't really articulate things in the best of ways anyway, let alone what was going on in my physical body. So I remember the nurse saying like, are you just doing this to get out of school? And I was like, no, I love school. So that was like when I first kind of lost trust in like medical professionals, and it was hard.
And they didn't look into it at that point.
They didn't look into it. Like no MRIs or anything, no tests. But of course I was 13, so they were like, maybe she's just, going through some puberty changes or something. So
it resolved.
Yeah, it resolved itself, and I completely forgot about it. And then when I was 17, the same thing happened on my right arm. But then it kept progressing to like my right leg, and then left me basically paralyzed on one side of my body.
Fully,
like couldn't for like 2 days. It was weird. Like it got worse within like a week, and then I was like super, super weak for like I think 2 or 3 days, and that's when I was hospitalized. So I was put under observation for about, I think it was 3 nights in the hospital, and then for me to recover from that took about 5-6 weeks. And then by the time I got back to a normal function, I had lost like muscle and like the muscle that I had built over the past like 6 months had gone. So when I got back to the track, I remember it being so hard to even just jog 200 meters. And my sister at this point had like already progressed to, I think she made the like national under 20 indoor final or something. And so we had already like that gap had grown. And then it took me until I think August that year. So that happened in December. And then August the next year was when I could finally sort of get back onto like a start line. But to be fair, when I look back at it now, it was a quick kind of progression.
Considering you'd lost all strength through that right side.
But at the time it was the slowest time ever. So that was, only when I was 17, it was a month before my 18th birthday that I got diagnosed.
So at what stage in that hospital stay did they diagnose you? Like, did you know what was going on when you were in hospital rehabbing?
I was at UCLH, so it was a university hospital. So I remember like a lot of students coming to see me. I was like, it was weird. It was like I was a case study. So I remember I was in the teenage ward of UCLH, which was pretty cool within itself. I was like, this is pretty cool. It was like when you're a teenager, you just don't think anything of anything. And I remember like constant groups of like 4 or 5 students coming to see, like test me and things. And then some students would like whisper like amongst themselves, like maybe it's like that MS thing, or maybe it's this, maybe it's that. So I would hear these things. And then I would hear like the consultant come in and be like, we're going to try and test for multiple sclerosis. We need to give you a lumbar puncture. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, no way, I'm not getting a lumbar puncture. So it was kind of like, we need to test for it, but you know, you don't want to do the main test for it. I was like, you do an MRI, I'm not doing a lumbar puncture. Because they were like, the needle's this big. I said, I'm not doing it. I was a stubborn teenager. But I'm kind of glad I said no. Nowadays, you don't need to get a lumbar puncture.
Do you not?
No. Things have changed so much in the past 10, 12 years.
Okay, so you said no.
I said no.
And your parents or whoever was around wasn't trying to convince?
No.
They were just like...
She was like, no, she doesn't want it. She doesn't want it. So like, I remember the words being thrown around, but I never associated them with me. I was like, no, I'm a national 800 meter athlete at this time. I wanted to be an 800 meter athlete. And I was like, no, I'm a national athlete. This can't be me. But I didn't get diagnosed. So that was in December, but I didn't get diagnosed until February. So it took 2 months for them to kind of look through the MRIs, look through what the symptoms actually were. For them to kind of put together that it was MS.
So if you'd have had a lumbar puncture, would they have diagnosed you there?
I think
and then?
so, yeah. I think maybe not there and then, but maybe like within a week or so.
And so looking back, you're still pleased you made that decision not to have it?
Yeah, because nowadays it's like you don't have to get it. So it makes me think, you know, they were still within like the research phase of trying to figure out how to diagnose MS. Like things have come such a long way. So when I advocate for MS now, it's very much hopeful because it's come such a long way and there's so much research happening behind the scenes, and I like to read up on what's happening. And the consultants and doctors don't get that kind of research until about 3 or 4 or 5 years later, but there is research happening. So it's like I try to stay on top of it and tell people, because I still get messaged on Instagram every now and then. I'm like, look, it's so hopeful now, like things have changed. It's not what you see 10 years ago. And even the publications now on sort of, I always say don't Google it, but if you ever go on like resources that kind of explain what MS is, those things are quite outdated actually. They're still 5 years behind. So it's like, it's fast paced. I think the research, it could be a lot faster obviously, which is why I advocate for MS, but the research now is very, very hopeful, and it's not as doom and gloom as it once was.
Yeah, but when you were diagnosed, was the diagnosis quite doom and gloom at the time?
Yeah, so it was. I mean, it's quite heavy for a 17-year-old to hear. And what I knew about MS at that time was 10 years outdated already anyway. So I'm seeing things from 10 years ago, and it was very much, you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30, and you're not going to be able to run track and field. Like, you're not going to be able to do your national 800 meter race that you wanted to do. And like, I remember when I got diagnosed, the consultant was like, you might need to think about changing your lifestyle. And I was stubborn, and I'm kind of glad that I was stubborn. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to run. I'm going to get back on the track. Yeah. So that stubbornness actually got me to, I think, where I am now. But yeah, I very much went through the 5 stages of grief, if that makes sense. So it's like that denial. It was like, no, it's not me. That's not me. You've got it wrong. And I think it took about 5 years for me to actually accept that I had MS. Like it was not until I was about 22, 23 that I actually thought, okay, this is what I have and I'm going to accept it and live with it now.
Yeah. And you basically said, screw the doctors, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
Which has actually been a really positive move for you.
Yeah.
Because you're still in the sport, which is amazing. You're an incredible advocate and an inspiration for people that live with chronic conditions. Yeah. But you have relapsing remitting MS, is that right?
Yeah.
So you'll have a relapse.
Yeah.
And then things go back to normal? Yeah. Is that how it looks?
Yeah. So I always say to people that like 95% of the time you would look at me and think she's normal, she's hate the word normal, she's healthy, she's got like just no visible disabilities. Like there's nothing that you can see where you think she's got a chronic condition. But that 5% of the time where like it's kind of, you know, I've got that relapse and I do present physical disabilities, that's where it's affected my training. So it's almost like one step forward, two steps back, which is why like my progression now it's been slow. So I only made my first world champs at 26, which is very late for an athlete. So a lot of people make their first world champs at 20, 21, 22. It took me about till I was 26 and my first Olympics at 28. I'm still hoping to make the next one. I'll be 32. But in my head, this is my prime. Like I've just about, you know, gotten to the world stage. Like I'm now like constantly doing these races with these fast girls. And I only feel like now have I started the sport. So I still feel like a newbie. I'm 30 in 5 months time. So yeah, I'm quite fortunate that it is relapsing remitting MS, so that I have those periods where I'm like healthy and I can train like an elite athlete.
Yeah, and do the relapses last different periods of time?
Yeah, and they're very random, and a lot of people ask me if I can predict when they're going to come on. Like absolutely not. Like there's just one day I'll wake up and something will go wrong. So I have started medication. So after the Olympic Games last year, I started medication. And I haven't had any relapses this year, which has been great.
Okay.
I have had like numbness come back, but I don't know if that counts as it. For me, that doesn't count as a relapse because it's just like a little bit of numbness, but I can still run. But other than that, it's like the safety and the security of being on medication has just like helped me be a better elite athlete. I think helped me believe in myself a bit more. And I think before that I was between like the age of 21 and 26, I was getting relapses left, right and center. Like it was like every month was something new. It was like double vision. I had so many times. I had weakness a few times, numbness down the whole of my lower body. One time described myself as a floating torso because I could not feel anything below like my torso. So that it was just like so many random different relapses, and sometimes they're not both, any two relapses aren't the same. Like, so it was a lot of like learning like what a relapse could feel like for me. And now if anything was to happen, I kind of don't panic because I know how it feels and like the progression and the time that it might take to recover from it. So it very much is a personal journey. And whenever I talk about MS, I'm like, just study your body. Don't compare yourself to someone else who might have the same condition as you. Because even within MS, like me and my identical twin sister have such different types of relapsing remitting MS, and we call it a snowflake condition because no two people will have the exact same type of MS, and that's what makes it so complex and what makes the research so hard, is because we can't look at two people and use them different. As a case study. So
it's like N equals 1.
Yeah, it's so that I think that's what makes MS so difficult to come to terms with, because doctors can't give you an exact prognosis. Like that's number one, but then number two, you can't look at someone else and go, I'm going to do what they're doing, like, because your body is just so different. So I always say to people, if they get diagnosed, like really just study your body, study what happens when you have a relapse, maybe figure out if you do have some triggers, because some people have figured out what their triggers are. And so it is a personal journey, and eventually you'll get used to living with it.
Yeah, and you understand yourself, and you know how to manage those relapses a bit better as you go through that
and
journey.
You know what you need, like the rest that you need, or like what makes you feel better mentally, because it is part of living with a relapse is the coping part of it. So it's like, find your coping mechanism, what makes you feel good. So there's just so many layers to having a chronic condition, I think.
But you didn't talk about it openly, you said, for about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And so was that tricky though, when you were going to competitions and maybe you weren't performing as people were expecting you to perform?
Yeah.
And so is that one of the drivers for you speaking out about it?
Yeah, when I made my first world champs in 2022, I was 13th in the world, I think. So there was some kind of talk that I might make the final, and then I didn't make it past the first round. So yeah, I had a relapse 2 days before the World Championship. So it was bad timing, and it was actually my first relapse in a long time. And yeah, it was, no one knew that I had MS. Like my coach knew, my sister knew, and that was about it.
That was it.
Yeah, in the team, like no one knew. And so I ran 3 seconds slower than my season's best, which just looked like I got to my first world champs and fumbled like massively. And I remember the coaches at the time, my relay coach was like, don't worry too much about it. Like, we're still going to select you for the relay. And I was like, you absolutely cannot select me for the relay. Like, absolutely not. And he was like, why? And I just blurted it out. I was like, I've got MS. Like, this is going to get worse. And I just remember the look on their faces like, what? How are you here? So then that was an explanation. And then yeah, when I went home, it was, I shouldn't have done this, but I looked down Twitter and it was like, Lena bumbled it, you know, she made her first world champs. And I just wanted to it just felt like the right time to go, I'm living with MS, and it just didn't go right this time. So for me, it was just going to explain what happened within the athletics world at my first world championships. But I didn't realise, obviously I had been living with it since I was 13. So for me, it's very normal.
Yeah.
But in the sporting world, it's not normal. So when I did speak out about it, I thought it was just going to be, you know, the athletics fans, the very niche fans that we have that might go, oh, okay, that's a good explanation. But it went worldwide. It was huge. Like, just went to all these different countries. It's like, this athlete lives with MS, like, look at this, da da da. And it blew up quite massively.
Was that quite overwhelming, or was it a relief to finally have it out in the open and to be able to kind of share?
Yeah, I think it was more the former. It was very overwhelming. I didn't realise it would be so. It was very well received. Yeah, I was very kind of, lots of people going, okay, this makes me feel like quite hopeful, and look, there's an athlete that has MS and this, that and the other. So a lot of people were like, does it feel like a weight off your shoulders? I thought, no. I said, it feels like a weight on my shoulders. I've now got a responsibility to, you know, educate people about MS, because you never hear about it in the sporting world. So it finally felt like I had a platform to kind of, I felt like, social responsibility to use that platform to educate people, because no one knows, like, more people know now, but not a lot of people knew what MS was. And there was a lot of misconceptions. Like, a lot of people were like, you should be at the Paralympics. Like, why don't you go and try out for the Paralympics? And I was like, even if I tried, they would have turned me around and said, you are not a Paralympian. Like, it was, so there was a lot of misconceptions. Because I think a lot of people thought that MS equally meant disability, but it's different for everyone. And I felt like I had to be that person to kind of educate people on what it can look like for so many different people. So it was definitely a changing point in my life where I thought, actually, I want to take this on board, and I want to be the person that can help raise awareness for a condition that not a lot of people hear about.
And how do you cope with that now? Like, do you ever feel like you're defined by your MS? And, you know, your post-race interviews, for instance, you're always asked, aren't you, about your MS? And how does that sit with you?
It's less so now. I think at the time, so I did the Commonwealth Games that year as well, which in hindsight I shouldn't have done. I still wasn't recovered. But at that time, like, lots of people were asking me about MS. But now, like, it's very normalised, which is a good thing, I think, because I think I'm not defined by it that much now. I think now that I've made a few more global championships, it's kind of like, oh, okay, we can see an athlete and just look at the athlete and know that in the background she does live with the chronic condition. I think that's what makes me happy about being an advocate for MS, because I speak about people in the workplace, and I wouldn't want someone to go into the workplace and in their job they're known as the person that has MS. So it's like, you are defined by so many things, and not to say that you should be defined by what you do, but you can define yourself as, okay, I'm so and so, I'm an accountant and I also live with MS. It's like, I think me speaking about it has made it normalized. Yeah. And I think that's the good thing. It's like, you shouldn't be defined by, you know, what you have or what you've dealt with in the past. It's like very much part of your story, but not your whole story.
Yeah, but that's brilliant, because the media could have made it your story. Yeah. But I suppose you've fought alongside that to be like, well, this isn't my story. Yeah. I'm an Olympic medalist and a world champion and a British record holder, you know, which is all just incredible.
Thank you.
You mentioned that your sister Lavi has also been more recently diagnosed. Yeah. And so she's your twin sister, like we said. Did you know that there was a genetic component? Did you guys know this was maybe going to be on the cards?
I did, yeah. I remember when I got diagnosed, I was told that my twin sister would have a higher chance of getting diagnosed, but I was hoping and praying that she wouldn't be diagnosed. So when she was, I was like, we were kind of hoping. But then at the same time, we knew that it would likely most happen. So when she did get diagnosed, I made sure that I was in the same office as her, the doctor's office, to make sure she wasn't alone, because it can feel very lonely when you get diagnosed. And when we left the doctor's office, I was like, you'll be fine. Look what I've done. So it was very much like, she's 1 minute older than me. But at that time, I was definitely the older sister. I was like, right, you're going to do this, and this. And even now, I started medication. I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. And I'm pushing her to start it. I'm like, you need to start this medication. And she's like, I'm going to do it. And she's getting all her blood tests now. And she's like, did you get chickenpox vaccines? And I was like, no. So I'm telling her how to check her blood results and the different apps and stuff. So I'm very much the older sister, helping her through this process. And I think it's quite nice, because I had so many years to deal with it. So I had between 17 and I was 29. How old was I? 28 when I started medications. I had 11 years to really process that, whereas my sisters had 3 or 4 years. So she hasn't really had time to like process what's going on. So I'm the one to kind of, be the leader and be the big sister. So yeah, it makes me feel better for her that she's got someone to deal with it. Whereas when I had it, I was very much alone. So I always say I wouldn't wish that whole process on my worst enemy. So whenever someone messages me on Instagram, I'm like making sure like I reply back with as much knowledge as I can give you, because it can feel very overwhelming and very scary.
Very lonely as well, isn't it? When you just don't have anyone in the same world to talk to about it. The medication, just out of interest, how does it help MS? What does it do?
Yeah, it's a good one actually, because a lot of people ask me if I should, as being a sports person, they ask me if I should get a TUE, therapeutic usage exemption, for those who don't know. But it's a live medication, so I've got to keep it in the fridge. And what it does is I inject myself once a month, and what it does is it goes and kills the I want to say T cells. I'm not so much a biologist, my degree's in chemistry, so don't kill me. But it goes and kills the T cells that would attack my nervous system. So it's obviously in an autoimmune condition, your immune system mistakes something in your body for not being yours. So in my case, it mistakes my nervous system for not being mine, thinks it's a foreign body and attacks it, and that's what can lead to the different symptoms. Wow. So what the medication does is it goes and kills the cells that would kill my nervous system. So in that way, I am immunosuppressed. So I'm dealing with a cold at the moment. I'm used to it now, getting all these sicknesses. But it has given me such safety and security, and that's, if anything, that's the thing that I push my sister to go and do, so that she can just live safely, and I don't live in as much fear as I used to. Like I always used to wake up and think, like, is everything working? Like, do I have my vision? Am I dizzy? Like, is anything got wrong? But now I kind of wake up and just go about my day, and it's just like such a relief to just like put trust in some sort of medication. Obviously it's not 100% I guess
foolproof.
Foolproof. We don't know if it fully works, but there has been like such good research and studies on it that it's like 90%, like people have, I think it's been shown to reduce relapses by like a really high percentage. I think it's definitely over something like 60%.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's very high, and more people now. So I'm like in a lot of like MS groups and forums and stuff, and a lot of people are being switched to the Kesimpta, which is what I'm on. So like it's very hopeful. So yeah, I definitely advocate for people who are looking to start medication, like just go for that push, like go for it, because I think it's very, very good.
And the plan is to stay on that medication
for the rest of my life,
basically.
Once a month for the rest of my life. But honestly, I'll take that over, living with a limp or living with this. So it's and I would say like, so Kesimpta was only made available to me 2 years ago. So it's very, very new. Like I think it became available on the NHS in 2021 or 22. Really so it's new. Very recent. So even 10 years ago, like I remember when I got given medication options, it was like 2 options, and the side effects were way worse than what I was going through, and I was like, no, don't want to go on any medication. Whereas now it's like there's so many options available. I think now, bearing in mind 10 years ago I was given 2 options, this time around I was given like 14. I was like, oh wow, I can actually look at this and make a good choice. And my consultant is like, honestly, I love her, she's great. And she took into account that I'm a physical, my job is physical, I'm an athlete. I always said I want to go to Olympics first and then start medication.
Was that because you thought you were going to get side effects from it?
Yeah, and I wasn't sure how it would affect my training. So I was like, let me just go to Olympics. I've been fine up until this point. And so she really took that on board. And I remember like literally a week after I came back from the Olympics, she was messaging me, which is really nice because she cares a lot about, and a lot of consultants who work within MS, because it's very niche, they really care about the patients. And I remember like she would set up like a telephone phone call, and on the NHS app I'd be like getting a reminder like, don't forget your telephone appointment tomorrow. I was like, I don't have a telephone appointment. So it's like she was very active in like making sure, she must have put a reminder on or something that I had come back from the Olympics and I was ready to start the medication. So amazing. Yeah, like it's, and even more so now, like I go to like a lot of lectures for MS research, and like in 2, 3, 4 years time there's going to be even more medication available that do different things depending on what your MS looks like. So it is very, very helpful nowadays.
Yeah, there's so much hope, which is amazing.
It is,
and you do a lot of work in the advocacy world, don't you? What do you actually do? So
I have an ongoing campaign called MS Without Barriers. So I go and speak to lots of media outlets and just raise awareness for MS. I'm actually going into Parliament later this month, which I'm so nervous about. So I've got like an audience within the Parliament to kind of like talk about MS, like it's an ongoing issue. For those who have visible disabilities with MS, things like PIP payments, so personal independence payments, are very useful. And so a lot of people look at MS and maybe 2 or 3 days in the week you're fine, but then the other 2 days you're not fine. So it makes getting work very difficult for people who, you know, have a more progressed form of MS and things like that. So it's kind of educating that MS can look very different for different people. And if someone is applying for PIP payments, it's not because they want to, it's probably because they need to. And so it's, very much, just raising awareness for the people at the top, making sure that those things are in place for people who have a progressed form of MS. And there's a lot of kind of like radio interviews and like really just getting the word out there. That's what it is.
Yeah, so on a more local level, you just want to inspire kind of other young people.
Yeah.
Look what can be achieved.
Yeah.
When I suppose you've just got an incredible outlook, really, isn't it? And so for those living with chronic conditions, I do think that, you know, you have demonstrated what can be achieved. And I wanted to ask you how much you think that is linked to your mindset and your determination.
I think a lot of it is. At the start of like my sporting journey, it was very much naivety, ignorance, stubbornness. So it's very much like I think I can do this. I believe I can do this. But the more that I kind of lived with it, it gave me a purpose. I looked at MS like this is something that has pulled me back, but I don't want to allow it to. And it also made me think I want to speak out to another 17-year-old or an 18, someone young. Like a lot of young people get diagnosed. There's a lot of pediatric cases with MS that we don't hear about. And I'd want someone to look at me and think, right, she was diagnosed when she was my age and look what she's done, to kind of allow them to follow their dreams. Because a lot of the narrative with a chronic condition is like your life has to stop, like you have to just take it easy and like just don't push your body too hard, which I get. And obviously when your body is dealing with some sort of fatigue, like definitely listen to it. But at the same time, like if you feel on those days where you feel great, like why wouldn't you go for it? You know, like use that time. And so I definitely advocate for, I always say I'm speaking to a young person, like I'm speaking to younger me, because there is a lot of kind of, I guess the narrative needs to switch from you can't do this to let me see how much I can do and how far I can go.
Yeah, do you know Sophie Grace Holmes, the runner? No. So she's an endurance runner. She's got cystic fibrosis.
Okay,
and I had her on the podcast. Okay. And a similar story to you in that her doctors as a kid told her to stop all exercise, you know, like you're doing too much. And it was her that was like, well, no, I'm a runner. Okay, I want to do a runner. I'm fine. And actually it's probably the running that's, you know, saved her life. Yeah, and so it's a similar thing like what you're saying. The doctors are a little bit behind the research, which is so interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's not always one size fits all. So like it's definitely the case with any chronic condition. It's very individualized. And I think the doctors will get the textbook version. But then to look at the actual individual and look at them and go, well, maybe let's see how much you can do. I think that's definitely an important switch that needs to happen, because you can just all get put into one box, but there are several boxes when it comes to a chronic condition. Yeah. There's not even several boxes, just one big open space. And it's like, just explore that, you know. So it's, it's definitely something that I don't think, with the doctors, it's really hard to kind of tell them to stray away from the textbooks, because it's the textbooks that got them there in the first place. So I wouldn't want to blame the doctors, but at the same time I think it's something that needs to happen on more local, kind of smaller scales. So like things like podcasts and being on the news and being on social media, like those are the resources that people would go to kind of go, actually it's okay. And I think that's where our social responsibilities is to use that platform to be that next step after being at the doctors.
Yeah. And you know, it can't be easy for you. And what I have noticed by following you on social media and watching you race is however difficult things are, you do seem to always be smiling.
I know, it's annoying. I'm always so positive. I'm like, why can't I just be negative?
But are you genuinely that positive? Like, do you love what you do?
I do love what I do. And there are like difficulties, like the World Champs this year made me hate what I do. But at the same time, I'm like, right. I remember like I did a reel recently where it was like, I didn't want to define my career with that one moment. So I am that person that always looks for the lessons and the reasons why things happen. And I think I've just always been that way since I was a teenager. So yeah, it's annoying.
Is Lavia the same?
Yes, but I think less so. I'm more the like, so right now it's like we're both kind of like annoyed with our seasons, but she's more like angry, whereas I'm more, maybe there's something more we could have done. Maybe there's something we could do here and there. And so I'm very much the logical twin. I'm like, right, just calm down. Let's just look at this at face value and just figure it out. But yeah, it's we're yin and yang.
It's amazing. It's just like amazing to have such a positive mindset. It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
Final question I ask everyone. If you could go back in time to when things were at their hardest, what do you wish you could tell yourself that you know now?
Oh, do you know, I always say I wish I could go back to 17-year-old me and like tell her like you'll be okay. You're going to be an Olympic medalist. You're going to be on the radio, which is one of the coolest things I've done is be on Radio 1, and just say like life will work itself out, and it always does in the end. It does work itself out, and it might not be what you thought it might be. Like I'm not going to be a world record holder, but you're still going to do like these amazing things. So I just wish I could just go back and say it's going to work itself out. It'll be hard for a while, but it will work itself out.
Yeah, amazing. And so what next? You talked about Radio 1. You've done life hacks on Radio 1. You've loved that, haven't you?
I loved it. It's the best thing ever.
You've got LA 2028 coming up, which you want to get to, you said. You're going to be 31, 32?
32.
32. So is that, what do you see happening over the next few years?
Yeah, so like luckily things are broken up because I know people always go like, how do you think about the next 4 years? So we've got the European Championships and the Commonwealth Games next year, which will both be in the UK, so big summer of sport. So that kind of breaks up nicely. And then another World Championships where I'm hoping to make it past the first round in 2027. And then, the Olympic Games, which is just like the pinnacle. And then, we'll see what happens after that. I think we've got a World Champs happening the year after that in London. So we'll see if that keeps me in the sport.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
And you want to pursue the broadcasting as well?
I do. Yeah, I would. I loved like the media side. We also filmed a documentary last year in Saudi Arabia, and like we were the presenters, but I loved being behind the camera more so than being in front of it. So like I loved that whole media aspect. Like social media also comes into that. So I think you'll definitely see me more in like the media spaces.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I do think you are honestly such an inspiration to so many people, and you show what is possible with just self-belief, grit, determination, and to thrive like you have in professional sport despite a diagnosis of MS. I think it's phenomenal. Thank you for just inspiring everyone listening.
I appreciate
and thanks for coming to speak to me today.
Yeah, it was lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to that incredible chat with Lena. I think she's absolutely an inspirational athlete and person, and I have taken so much from that conversation. Join us next week for another incredible chat.